where does it's a really interesting question of, well, where does your certainty come from now? And all of a sudden it's increasingly looking like like there isn't certainty.
No, but what is, like, when I talk about the core, where it ends up, and this is kind of in a sense spoiling the punchline of the book, but people can go and read it because there's entire sections on this, and it's worth repeating in your mind 1,000 times, is I always was trying to figure out, like, people would, when I looked at the core, I said, well, what does the world tell me the core is all about? And the aphorism was constantly like, love yourself. You have to love yourself. And I could never really connect to that idea, because for me, it was always, yes, love myself, but also how great are my results and how special do I feel? And like, if my results weren't good, or if I didn't feel special because I felt like I'd screwed up a lot, or I'd made a bunch of mistakes, or I, was questioning my value, then I didn't feel special. And if I didn't feel special, I had a really hard time loving myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't latch on to it. And I knew early on, like, oh, I need a more robust model for this, because that model is not working for me. And when I would ask people, I would ask audiences, look, how important is it to love yourself? And I knew the answer. Everyone, yeah, it's so important to love yourself. When I asked them, why should you love yourself? That's when people really struggled. Because it was like they'd been taught the lesson, but not the why or even the how. And people would start, like, after a couple of seconds of silence, people would give, like, they would give another, like, they just replace one platitude with another. They'd be like, well, because I'm special. And I'd be like, but why? But on what basis are you special? There's 8 billion of us. And by the way, within those 8 billion, there's a lot of ways we feel we don't match up. So on what basis are we saying we're special? Oh, well, I'm, and then people would start searching for almost like like what felt like depth, but to me was just another trap, because they'd say, I'm special because I'm kind, and because I give a lot, and because I'm good to my family, and because I work really hard, and because all of that, to me, again, it's certainly deeper than I'm special because I drive a great car, but it still opened you, it was still vulnerable, because, well, what do you do on the days where you're not kind?
Or to the parts of you that don't want to be kind. Yeah.
Like, because that, for me, I was like, for so much of my life, I felt like, am I a bad person? Maybe I'm a bad person. Maybe I would like worry. Maybe I'm not good. Maybe I'm like, and then every time I do something that was selfish, or I said a mean thing, or I acted like, I would be like, I think I am a bad person. Like, I just get stuck in that.
Yeah.
And so when you tell yourself you're special because of these qualities, and that's why you deserve love, when you're not those qualities, you think you're undeserving of love. In fact, you think worse. You think you're detestable and disgusting and pathetic and ugly and unlovable. Or, by the way, even on the positive end of the spectrum, when you are being those things and you're validating yourself, telling yourself you're worthy of love because of those things, then when you meet someone who's more of them, what are you going to say? They're more lovable. You should love yourself, but not as much as that person should love themselves. You're just straight back into comparison. So I started looking at it like, oh, this is almost a romantic model for loving ourselves. Like, we're trying to apply the way we fall in love with the world with the way we love ourselves. We fall in love with another person because of a combination of qualities they have that we find really attractive, and a sense of mystery that, like, there's space between us. And that if I can close down that space, there's something exciting about that. And then that's what falling in love is, right? I close down the space between us and the mystery, and I make them mine, and I feel, but if you then follow the trajectory of that, what happens, the classic line, familiarity breeds contempt. In a long-term relationship, anyone can be in danger of that line becoming true for them. The closer you get to someone, the more you're no longer impressed by all their good qualities. They're no longer a mystery to you. You're more aware of their faults, their flaws, their insecurities, the parts of them that take, more effort to love, and the complexities, and you might get bored. But you're also aware of all their mistakes and so over time, contempt can become the dominant emotion, which is why so many people break up.
Yeah.
Well, if that's true, if familiarity breeds contempt, who would you have more contempt for than the person you've spent every second of your life with? And that's why the romantic model for loving ourselves is so broken, because we're trying to fall in love with ourselves when most of us can barely get to the point of liking ourselves, let alone loving ourselves. So what I started to do is look for a very different model altogether for loving myself. And the model I originally found it in was the parent-child relationship. Because if you ask a parent, why do you love your child? They don't reel off a list of attributes.
Hopefully not, right?
No, some might. And by the way, that's why that child is going to grow up with a whole bunch of insecurities and not feel certain. But most parents won't. Most parents will look at you like it's a strange question in the first place. Because you say, why do you love your child? They'll be like, what are you talking about? Because they're my child. She's mine. He's mine. What do you mean? It's my kid. It's like a weird question.
And I love that because it's mine. It's like,
mine.
Why do I love my hurt, my pain, my inadequacies? It's like, because they're mine. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like when I started to look at self-love through that lens, I went, oh, it's like someone at the beginning of my life, and anyone can think this way, gave me a human. And it doesn't matter whether you think that's nature or God, or it doesn't matter your belief system. It's like you got a human. You're one of the lucky ones who got a human. And it's like someone said to you, you just have one job. You're going to take on lots of jobs voluntarily in your life. You may choose to get married. You may choose to have kids. You may choose to, work an important job. But the one job you're always going to have is that you have to give this human the best life you can. How you choose to do that is up to you. But your job is to take care of this human. That one change, for me, changed everything. Because it's irrelevant. Comparison with other people or worrying about what you don't have, or it becomes utterly irrelevant through that lens. It would only be relevant if you could exchange your human for a different human, right? If like halfway through you got to say, okay, I'll trade, but you don't get to trade. You're lucky enough, by the way, most sperm never became anything in the history of time. But if we're here, then we're lucky enough that we actually got a human. Your only job, like you're playing a video game, your only job is to figure out how to have the best time with this human, how to give this human the best life, the biggest adventure you can, however you want to frame it. And it just dissolves insecurity when you think like that. It completely dissolves it, because you just go, who cares if my nose is too big, or I don't have enough hair, or if I don't feel it's so irrelevant through that lens. The only job is just, what would I do today if I was trying to give this human the best life I could?
Yeah.
How would I play the game?
If you want to go deeper on this, more confidence, more charisma, and how to show up in a way that has presence in every area of your life, we've built a program that will help you do exactly that. Here's what one student had to say. I went from this very weird person who missed social cues to this guy that could keep a conversation going and make people laugh. The course is called Charisma University. It's had tens of thousands of students go through it, 30 days long, fully guaranteed. If you don't think it was worth it, you get a refund right from inside the program. There's a link on the screen here and in the description. I hope you decide to check it out.